And so I wanted to pay tribute to some of the medical TV shows that have been a part of my life over the years. For me, it started way back with one of the granddaddies of them all, the OG, which would be GH, General Hospital. I have fond memories of coming home from school, elementary school, and even middle and high school for that matter. And GH would be on, and my mom would be watching it. And I would start my afternoon snack, and you couldn't help but get sucked into the storylines. Hey, wasn't that guy with the other woman? Why is he with this other woman now? You're drawn in like a magnet. In fact, my mother, General Hospital was an ABC show. She enjoyed the shows on two different networks. She watched the ABC shows and the CBS shows, so she would flip back and forth during the commercials to follow concurrent shows on both networks, just to stay on top of all the different storylines. So I was there for the Luke and Laura wedding, of course. We're talking early 80s in this situation. I remember Demi Moore, and of course Rick Springfield as Dr. Noah Drake, as we knew him. But that's where medical television started for me. Also during that time, I was watching a show you may or may not remember called Trapper John, MD. Kind of a nondescript medical drama, but it was on my radar. And even before that, Quincy, the adventures of the intrepid forensic pathologist who solved cases from his laboratory. A little bit far-fetched, especially me being the son of a real-life pathologist. But my dad didn't watch a lick of that show, but somehow I was drawn in, and of course it was a crime show in the end, and that's what sucked me in particular. But after that, there wasn't a whole lot for me. I guess I maybe got busy with school, but it wasn't until the late 80s when Doogie Howser, MD, came out, and that somehow got my attention. It only lasted about 4 seasons, but the term Doogie Howser pretty much became synonymous for any young, precocious doctor. I sort of missed the days when I might have been considered a Doogie Howser, because I'm not young or precocious anymore. But that was a landmark show in many respects. Just as a little side item, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, came out in the early 90s, and the fictional story was that Dr. Quinn was a graduate of the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania, and that is actually my alma mater. By the time I went there, it was no longer Women's Medical, and it was just the Medical College of Pennsylvania. Subsequently became a part of Hahnemann Medical School, and it's nice to be a part of folklore, if you will. But the big one that soon would hit would be in the early to mid 90s, which was ER. That lasted a good 15 seasons, and I watched just about all of that. I was just starting residency at the time, and so the timing was perfect for my trajectory. That was back when George Clooney was really a nobody. I don't know if you remember a long-haired George Clooney on The Facts of Life back in the 80s, but he wasn't a big name when he started that show, but by the time he finished it, he was a huge name and remains so ever since. It was a little soap opera at times, but for the most part, it was pretty realistic and pretty hard-hitting. Then when you get to the 2000s, at least things got a little lighter. I was a big fan of Scrubs, and that lasted, close to 10 years. And around that time, something a little less light, House, came into being. Um, a very interesting show, another very unrealistic show. You had a hospital department being run by an opiate addicted physician, and God knows how many hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent on testing for every case in this show. Sort of a scattershot approach, going after every obscure diagnosis in the book, and finally determining at the end that it was something quite common. Similar storyline every time, but interesting nonetheless. And then the big one over the past many years has been Grey's Anatomy. I never was drawn to that. I know it's pure soap opera, and I think on the realism index it ranks very low, but certainly has characters that many people have been drawn to, and just hasn't drawn me in for whatever reason. And finally, most recently, I've been watching a British medical show called, what is it called? It's called Dr. Foster. And it's about a family physician, or GP, or general practitioner as they're called in England, Gemma Foster, practicing in a small town in England. The town is called Parmington. I haven't looked it up to see if that's a real town, but she's leading the good life. She's married, has a spunky 12-year-old, I think, and a handsome, successful businessman of a husband, but she soon discovers that he appears to be having an affair, and then she finds out that this affair is with a 23-year-old woman. Dr. Foster goes to the point where she actually gets to see this young woman as a patient, and queries her about her sexual habits, and the woman admits, without knowing that Dr. Foster is the other woman, that she's having an affair with a married man. Ultimately, she confronts, Dr. Foster that is, confronts her husband, and in one of the most uncomfortable scenes I've ever been a part of, at a dinner table with lots of family present, and the entire marriage spirals downward. But it's a Netflix show, and I would recommend it highly if you like to watch uncomfortable shows that stress you out, such as all the Ozark fans out there. So Dr. Foster, look for that on Netflix, and I'll let you know if I come across any other interesting medical shows.